We don't have enough squares for a center square, but our guest tonight is the one and only Joe Bloch, the Greyhawk Grognard. You love him, you know him. You see him on every other Sunday night with me and Joe the lawyer. You've been enjoying his videos. Joe, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no, good stuff. So,
well, and Joe's on here for a reason. I mean, we don't just have
a reason. We don't need a
just
reason.
randomly. I mean, he's got some wares he's peddling, so we'll talk about that tonight. Obviously,
actually, I have been on here just randomly in the past.
It's actually, I think you have, Joe. You're right. We're like, hey, we need a hot opinion. What's Joe doing?
Let's make Joe angry. Let's get Joe to fight.
For the love of God. Yeah.
Leave it in shrink. No.
Yeah, brick it and with the
Oh, that's Mike.
Yeah. Dude, can we compromise on moldy product? We can compromise on moldy products. I'm just saying.
I had to throw away a whole box of moldy products last year, so don't get me started on moldy products.
Oh.
There was, by the way, given to me by Alan Hammock, who, and it wasn't his. I'm not going to blame Alan. He had a friend that said, hey, you're going to that convention. I'd like to donate some stuff. He gave it to Alan. Alan goes, whoa. Wrapped it in a bag, gave it to me. I opened up and said, whoa. No, Alan, no.
Listen, I opened it up and the shriekers started making noise. Not cool, man.
And
I once had a box of stuff that the cat peed in, so I think I got you trumped.
Okay, I have a better story than that, Joe. I got a better story than that. I bought something from Gary Gygax in the late 90s. He was auctioning off a lot of his stuff. I bought a variety, just some stuff. It was owned by Gary Gygax. So that was cool. This is the years before COAs and, did you get it signed on the cover and this and, you're going to get it slabbed. No, this is just Gary Gygax's auctioning stuff. I bought some stuff and it came in a box.
An old pair of his pants.
The box smelled like cat pee. It had been peed on by cats because it smelled like, I have cats. I know what cat pee smell like. So the box had been peed on. The items weren't. So he just used he reused the box. It had been peed on by cats. And there was one piece of tape shutting that box. One single, solitary, lonely, but thankfully strong piece of tape shutting that box. The Gary Gygax treasures within from just being scattered all through the universe. So that was my Gary Gygax ship me something story, a box of cat pee. And of course, my good friend Ed Corto, who passed away, told me that you didn't save the box. You could have sold the box. Authentic Gary Gygax cat pee and he would give me trouble. He would give me hard time for that for like a decade, at least a decade. If you only had the box that Gary's cat peed on, can you imagine how much that'd be worth now? I said, probably.
That would be there's tens of dollars.
It wouldn't be worth the smell in the meantime. I'll put it
it was pretty obvious that I don't know how Gary didn't smell it, but Gary was a lifetime smoker, so he probably did not smell it. He smoked, so yeah, it makes sense. But yeah, I missed my chance at millions, guys.
So dear God, let's just move straight from cat pee to hey Joe, how's it going?
It's a smooth transition, right, Joe?
Yeah, really. It's going great. I was at Pace last weekend. That was a lot of fun. Just regular gaming stuff.
Yeah.
Trying to keep Greyhawk alive.
And how goes keeping Greyhawk alive?
It goes really well. I'm doing a Kickstarter, which I think we're going to talk about later. And when I was there was actually two different groups where there was like tons of Greyhawk games being played. There's
nice.
Heroes of Greyhawk, which I'm going to actually have them on my channel on a live stream a week from Sunday.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I interviewed them a couple of months ago and they're coming back on to announce a new initiative. And then Cabal Band Publishing also had a big area and they were running a ton of Greyhawk stuff. So Greyhawk is definitely undergoing a quite the surge in the fan community.
And so when you talk to people, right? So it's been a while since you've been on the show. When you talk to people about Greyhawk, so that's a pretty big sweeping statement. And it's not that I don't want to believe that statement, right? But when you talk to people, what are people who are previously unfamiliar with Greyhawk? who have a chance to dabble in Greyhawk, what is it that excites them? I mean, what now? I mean, you're preaching with the choir, brother, right? We've all drunk from the well, and we're all on board. But what do you hear, right? So I'm really curious to hear that.
Well, I get a lot of obviously tons of comments on my videos.
Yep.
I talk to people at conventions and everything, and obviously a huge part of it is nostalgia because this was the original campaign setting for AD&D. But I think a lot of the new people are just not. They're rediscovering. Well, not rediscovering. They're discovering it for the first time, and they're seeing what a setting can be like that's not Forgotten Realms.
Right.
And Greyhawk does have a very different feel. It's much grittier, despite what happened in the DM's Guide 2024. A lot of the stuff that's available now shows it's not. You don't have 30th level wizards running around handing out quests.
Sure.
But it has a much more grounded feel, a much more realistic, quasi medieval tone to it, and I think that resonates with a lot of people. Is that they like that kind of more grounded feel to the setting, and I see that on my comments, and I see that what people tell me.
I think you've got an absolutely spot on point, right? One of the things that's so interesting about the Forgotten Realms is that you have all the NPCs that frankly were the PCs in Ed's campaign for 20, 30 years. And they've all just reached almost a demigod level of ability and so on.
Some of them literally, some of them.
Yeah, but where they've got too much on their plate. There's too much fornicating for them to get away to go do whatever it is they need to do. And by the way, could you guys take this task? And Kelvin Blackstaff can't be bothered right now. Could you go deliver this pizza for us? Yeah, that would be great. and there's a lot of that in the Forgotten Realms where just the party just seems to be like an endless series of Uber Eats people. Right, where Uber slay, hey, go knock off those ogres for me, and so on. And Greyhawk, absolutely, Greyhawk there's much more of a sense of permanence, of danger, of things that could happen. Like, don't get me wrong, the Zenthal Keep and those guys, yes, okay, yeah, they're great bad guys, but there's only so many cackling evil wizards of Thay that I can put up with, and then I go.
Well, plus, I think there's something to be said for the fact that, yes, they have advanced the timeline in Greyhawk. They went from 576 to 591. But compared to how much the Forgotten Realms have changed in terms of timeline, they've advanced it like centuries. Yes. And it's unrecognizable in a lot of ways, which I think is why they focus on the ghost all the time.
They went 1-to-1 for a while. And I think that was actually their biggest mistake is that the clock started to move so quickly, you weren't guaranteed an ability. You could not keep up in some ways. And I think that's a fair criticism.
You could argue that that's what Gary was doing with those events of the Flyness articles in Dragon back in the 80s.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
After the gold box, he started cranking those out, and it was at first it was 577, 578, and then the idea was that they were going to take another pass around it. So I think that would have been their attempt to do that, but it never happened.
So Joe, I'm sure we've asked this before, but for those who haven't ever seen you on the show before or whatever, or don't remember, like me, what was your opinion of the whole From the Ashes timeline by Carl Sargent?
At the time, I really didn't like it, but over the years, it's really grown on me as I've seen just how much it does link into those Gary Gygax articles. It's obvious that
I absolutely agree. Yep.
Yeah, Carl Sargent's, he gets a lot of crap from a lot of fans because they don't like advancing the timeline at all. But he really did try to make his stuff mesh with the Gygax stuff, even though he couldn't officially reference it. Mm-hmm. But if you see you can draw lines between what Gygax started in those articles and what Carl Sargent did in Greyhawk Wars and From the Ashes.
I remember at the time I was very ambivalent, but the longer I looked at it, I actually ran a From the Ashes campaign for a year or two. I like the more I thought about it, I kind of like the fresh new look because it seemed like for a long time Greyhawk was kind of just stuck in this one little, frozen amber time period. and it advanced it. It wasn't onerous the way it advanced. It wasn't like it changed things so much, or like I can't recognize anything. It just kind of moved things along the way they probably might have logically moved along. There was a couple of little surprising things there. The wizard betrayal of Rary and stuff like that were kind of okay. That came out.
That wasn't even part of the. That was that was a module that did that. That wasn't like built into the thing. But I also think that Jesus, what the hell was I going to say? I just had a stroke. I don't know what's going on.
We have a lot of those moments around here.
Oh,
yeah, really. I was all teed up to say something, and I just.
I really like Sargent's Warhammer stuff. I like Sargent in general. Pretty much everything he's written. There was like maybe two things he wrote I didn't like, but for the most part, nearly everything he wrote, including I think there was a couple of magazine adventures, some other things. I really like his style. It's more of a dark, but not overly grimdark, not just ridiculously grimdark, but he does more of a realistic, dark, kind of gloomy take on D&D and gaming that you don't see a lot of, especially in the TSR era when they had edicts that, well, no, you can't have this happen. You can't have cannibalism, no this or that. He managed to kind of worm his way around like, well, we're going to push the limits a little bit. And we're going to have some really bad guys that do really bad things. And I appreciate that about, that he tried to bring that sensibility, that Warhammer, I guess, sensibility to D&D.
My biggest beef, and I've suddenly remembered what I was going to say. My biggest beef with the Greyhawk Wars right now is the fact that they're called the Greyhawk Wars. If it had just been a series of local wars that all, overlapped, I think it would have been a little more realistic than having this all of a sudden, boom, everybody's at war with everybody, and then boom, they're all not at war anymore. If they had staggered it out a little bit, I think it would have worked a lot better, and not had that whole World War II analog thing going. It would have, I think, worked better if, so the Scarlet Brotherhood makes its move, okay, fine, and then Niron and the Great Kingdom, they go to war, okay, and they just have it rolling rather than just one big conflagration across the entire continent.
Right.
Well, cool. I think you probably had said that before. I couldn't remember if that was because I'm like you. I appreciate it more the older I get. I read back on like these are pretty good. This is I think From the Ashes does a pretty good job of presenting the setting in an updated but not really changing a lot way. Changes a couple of things, but in the end, you're just you've got I think that was interesting, and I was going to ask your opinion on this too. Do you think Greyhawk was an underutilized setting for, because I do. I think it was a very underutilized setting for like maybe 5 to 7 years. It just didn't seem like anything. I mean, the city of Greyhawk didn't even come out until 1989, which was way past Gary even being there.
No, it was before then, I think. But I think underutilized isn't quite the right word, because you did see all pretty much every module for AD&D was set there for a long time. But I think part of it is that Gary was a bottleneck, right? Because nobody really wanted to tackle the big stuff. Nobody, they couldn't do a City of Greyhawk because that was Gary's thing. They couldn't do Greyhawk Castle. That was Gary's thing. And Gary was off in LA trying to sell movies and TV shows and stuff. So he wasn't working on it at all. So I think having that roadblock in there, that constriction point, I think limited what the setting could have been.
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah, I would agree with you there too, because I think there was a lot of waiting for Godot there, and they were kind of like, okay, what's Gary going to do? That's the big the joke, the big delay of the T1 through 4. You had T1 come out, and I believe in '79, and then you're sitting there waiting, and then I think it's 85, right? 84, 85. I mean, it's just.
And I told you this story. I bought the first one. It was signed by him. I bought the first one ever sold at Gen Con, signed by Gary, saying so. And then a couple years, and then like maybe 8-9 years later, I sell it for a pittance because I'm never going to play D&D again. So if
I saw Jim just swallow, and I don't.
If the person who's watching, if the person who bought it is watching,
down Jim's face as we
reach out to me. So first ever sold at Gary, Gen Con 1985. Gary Gygax.
Well, who knew? Nobody knew back then. Don't worry about it, but. Yeah, and then of course, famously, he gave that over to Frank to finish because he just had so many things going on, couldn't get that done. But I guess what I mean is like when you look at a module, it may say that this takes place in Hex, whatever, but there's never anything really correlating back to these guys are Sewell, their nationality is this, or this guy's from the Kingdom of Nyron. It's just like a generic D&D module, but by the way, it's set in this Hex.
You don't have a lot of the connective tissue that you do, and even a lot of Gary's modules don't. I mean, there's none of that in like Tomb of Horrors or anything, and that's set in Greyhawk. So, in a lot of places, it's not necessarily relevant, but when you see, even Village of Hamlet, are they Sewell? Are they Iridian? Are they a mix? It's not germane to the adventure, so it's not really in there. But I would have loved to see Wasp's Nest, the city-state of Stoink, which is something that he announced in Dragon. I would have loved to see Shadowland. I would have loved to see his city of Greyhawk, his Greyhawk Castle, all these things that he told us he was working on. His second edition. And it never happened.
Maybe Gary, let's go back in time and say, you know what? Don't go to Hollywood, dude. It's not going to end well. Just stay out of Hollywood. Somebody else can do. Flint, Dilly, and Ernie can do the cartoon thing. You need to stay here and write and do your thing here because that's where we need you. We need you.
Yeah, but from his standpoint, it went really well because he had cocaine and blowjobs
I'm saying from our point of view, Joe. From us, from our point of view, we need him to stay and write more stuff. Yeah, that's I have I've read some letters that over the years he and Steve Marsh corresponded. They were very good friends, and that was all stuff that was in the hopper, like you said. I mean, that was all. Steve was he wanted Steve to work on Shadowland, and Steve had some ideas for that. That ended up being his. He published it later. It was called Mist World, I believe. He had to change the name to Mist World or something like that.
And Frank Messer was going to have his Aquaria campaign that was supposed to be
across the ocean. Right?
Yeah, that was Francois. I'm going to butcher his name. That guy, Black Moon
Royal Ventures dude. Yeah.
Yes, thank you. He had the Western Ulrich, and Len Lakofka had the Lendor Isles, and they were all going to be doing it. And that all blew up when he was forced out. So
because Len had tons of material because a lot of that's come to light, after he left, and
they're still working. They still have new stuff. They're going to be the Len Lakofka archive is going to be publishing all that stuff, and they're still trying to track down more things. They've published a bunch of stuff already.
We should have had L1 through 10. I mean, the amount of stuff there was there. That should have been a whole gigantic series of the L series. Because
now I think there's an L6 on Dragon's Foot.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, there is some of the Dragon's Foot. That's true. I guess the rest is probably online, but I know they're all working. It's been worked on by.
Yeah, they come out with very limited print runs of stuff at GaryCon. And I've been lucky enough to score a couple here, even though I don't go to GaryCon anymore because logistical reasons. But I've been able to get a copy here or there of some of the stuff. But it's just so great to see as much of that stuff. And of course, Frank Messer's Aquaria under a different name is going to be published too. So it's good to see all this stuff coming out.
Well, so So you're the Greyhawk Grognard. So first of all, did you give yourself that name, or was that just something that
I did?
Okay, so
I wanted to have something alliterative, and that was.
I know, but you're the best nickname somebody gives you, Joe. You don't pick it.
Yeah, no, that was all because it started with a blog. Because back in the day, Eric and I and a bunch of other people had just started. That was just starting to take off back in the olden days. And so it just it felt right.
Yeah, I remember Eric and I was talking about the golden age of the blog when you woke up in the morning and you went to your blog list and there was Chicago Wiz and there was Joe and there was Joe the lawyer and there
Grognardia.
Oh my gosh, all that, and you killed an hour every morning just going through your blogs and just seeing what everybody was talking about, and Jeff Reitz and all those guys back then. It was sometimes you maybe even walked on the wild side, went to Zach's porno for Pyros, whatever. But yeah, that was the golden days of the blogosphere, man. That was some great stuff.
What was her name? Mandy Morbid. That was it. Yeah.
Mandy Moore. Yeah. The name that we shall not be mentioned unless you want to be sued now or whatever. But,
Yeah. I just.
But no, but that was great though. Yeah, the Grognardia Day. James Malzuski always had something cooking, and I love Chicago Wizard stuff. And then one of those guys, yeah, he's back, isn't he?
He's been blogging a few years back from his self-imposed exile.
Yeah. So tell us about your project here. What have you got going here? Because we've had you on the last couple of years. It's always something kick-ass coming out for.
Well, I'm glad you asked. Cool. I happen to have a copy here.
What?
By sheerest happenstance. So
I think. Go ahead.
This is my last Adventures Dark and Deep rulebook for a long time. The Book of Fell Wisdom. And before I get into it, I had a copy printed up to take with me to Page so people could actually see it. It's just the raw Word document in the cover. And I ordered this from Drive-Thru. And I'm like, oh, cool. It's finally arrived. And I open it up and...
Oh, my God.
Yes, it is somebody else's book in my cover. Which is the second time that's happened.
What an ass whipping! Yeah, it's Dragonlance too. Ouch.
Yeah, exactly. Which I don't mind Dragonlance at all. But it's really funny because it's the second time that's happened to me. And the first time I noticed it, somebody had put my my cover on somebody else's module, and I was selling it at ShireCon, and I forget whose it was, but he was there too. He was vending as well. And like somebody, like, I sell this person a module, and they open it up. It's like, this is wrong. And I'm like, I open it up. I'm like, you're right. And the guy is across the room from me in ShireCon, and I go over to him, and we had a
that's just brutal. That's just
did you tell him that he had a very rare copy of the, and did you do one of those don't throw me in the briar patch? Oh, I need to have that back. That's very rare copy.
Yeah, that's perfect.
Oh no, we all three of us just had a chuckle about that. So, but they did give me a real copy. So it's got the just the raw Word file, and so people were able to look through it at Page. So the Book of Book of Fell Wisdom is my last rule book for quite some time, because it pretty much has everything I've wanted to say. 10 years from now, I might have enough to do another book. But it's got new classes and new optional rules. It's got a necromancer. It's got a witch. It's got myconic druid, which is an underdark druid who uses fungus. It's got all the specialty clerics for the demon lords. A lot of this stuff has previously been published. I had a series of little PDF only things called Darker Paths, and some of this stuff comes from the Adventures Great and Glorious book, but it's all been completely reworked, and I've taken out the stuff that didn't work, and I've added new stuff. It's got rules for alchemy, ley lines, and demi-planes, high-level followers, how to create castles, just all kinds of stuff like that you could just really add into your game. The focus is on high-level play and evil creatures. So one of my favorite magic items in here is a scroll of protection from sunlight, and the idea is you give that to vampires. So nice. The vampire can read the scroll, and all of a sudden all your plans go out the window, stuff like that. And it's like I say, it's the last one I'm doing. It's already written. The Kickstarter is going to be there just for getting the art done and the editing done. The fact that this is the last one of these I'm doing means I can focus more on the Greyhawk stuff and on adventures, and also on more free stuff for the blog. So it does have the gold spine, so you can figure out what you get on the inside. But it's kind of a grab bag of stuff. Tons of new spells. I recently reread I read the Azalin books from Ravenloft, because he starts off in Greyhawk as a lich, and then he gets taken into Ravenloft. And I went through and I was taking notes as I was reading everything. So there's a bunch of spells in here that come straight out of those books. One that stands out to me is he's got a spell that just destroys treasure. in a given
Ooh.
radius. So
Oh,
it's just
nice.
hey, Aslan did it in the book, so why not be able to do it in mine? So just stuff like that. It's like I say, it's the last one in the series for a long time. This is kind of the capstone of the Adventures Dark and Deep supplements, and this will complete your collection, and they look really nice next to your old Orange Spine AD&D books.
Very cool. Yeah.
So-
And I see Eric has put up the link to get to the.
The link is in the chat, and the link is on the screen if you're willing to type it in.
You can also go to kickstarter.brwgames.com. That will take you right there. It's the original goal was $1,000, and I think it's blown past 7,000 already. And
That's fabulous.
78. Yeah.
it's only been up for a couple of days, about less than a week. So yay!
That's excellent. And so when you sit down to sort of come up with something like the scroll of protection from sunlight, do you find that you really want to sort of get some works from an evil campaign? I used to know people that just all they wanted to do was be a part of an evil campaign and so on and so forth, and it never really did anything for me. But it always was interesting to sort of hear the bent take on stuff. So, oh God, I'm putting Mike to sleep.
No, I'm up.
We've all played in an evil campaign once or twice. I mean,
Right.
yeah, I've done it. It's fun for a little bit, and then it really gets old quickly. Those kinds of things I really put in there for the bad guys, for the villains that you're fighting against. It's another way to set up something that the players aren't ready for. Oh, we're fighting a vampire. Of course, we'll take him at daytime. No, that won't work. It throws them off, and it forces them to improvise again. So things like that, things like the destroy treasure thing, and there's just a ton of things like that will give your bad guys, your villains, a boost,
Right.
and hopefully make the game more exciting again. Give you more life into things that your players have done a dozen times before. So, for example, the Necromancer class, a lot of the spells that the Necromancer uses emulate the abilities of undead. So you can actually have like the ghoul's touch, which will paralyze whoever it touches. Things like that. I wanted to make it really thematically rich. In terms of, okay, yes, if you're a necromancer, you're tuned to the undead, and undead in D&D have certain abilities and understandings, and that's how that translates into your spells thing. I tried to make it as internally referential as I could.
I wish you were excited about this. It's hard talking to you when you're so monotone and so not emotionally invested. And
Well, I was going to say, Joe, I think what's so cool about what you said is that a lot of time I'm running a campaign right now. We're in session 22, 23, something like that. And, it's really hard to, even though I'm a pretty low magic campaign, at a certain point, everybody's accumulating on magic because so many items can be used by everybody. It's great to have evil only magic items. They just fought a Darrow that had a kick ass sword, and they had a badass combat with him. They killed him. And then they do like identify the sword. Oh, it's evil. Oh, so I'm like, yeah, well, he's evil and he's got an evil sword. So I did let them get experience for destroying the sword, but they were pissed because it was kicking their butt, and I could see their mental machinations like, oh, I'm going to be the one. Oh, I'm going to get this. Oh, I'm getting this sword after this Darrow's dead. I'm getting this sword. And then it's super evil and it will destroy your soul and blah, blah. Like, never mind.
All right.
All right.
I'm just engaged in bibliomancy, which is a real thing where you just open a book to a random thing. You pick a passage at random. So this is, I have it open up to the spell section, and this is invisible, invite possession, which is a demoniac cleric spell. This spell allows the demoniac to voluntarily invite a demon to possess his body for a single day, at the end of which time the demon will owe the caster a minor service. And then there's the caster blanks out for the day, and then you roll on a table to find out what the demon did to you while it had control of your body. It's like a carousing table, but awful. So You cut off one of your own fingers. You joined the army. You openly declared your allegiance to your patron demon in front of many witnesses. You got into a bar fight with the entire clientele of a tavern, rough bunch of lads. You were recognized by a good aligned cleric who attempted to exorcise the demon. Just stuff like that. Just, hey, I want a demon to owe me a favor. What awful thing is going to happen to you in return? Just stuff like that.
I don't want to know what's going to happen. Then your friends are like, dude, you at the bar the other night? Ooh.
Yeah, exactly.
Wow.
Boy, did you make friends.
Fun. I like to make it stuff just like fun and random. It doesn't always have to be earth-shatteringly, portentous.
I don't know. It's kind of more fun when it is portentous, frankly.
I have a couple of idiot players that might do that, actually. They're that stupid.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, roll on the chart. I want to see what happens. Roll on the chart. Like,
that's right. You've given me something to test against.
It's like wanting to cast spells in DCC. It's just
you end up with 3 legs and a tail, and your skin's blue now.
How did we get
critical
here?
Success, yes, yeah.
How did we get here? You rolled dice. That's how we got here.
So that's my book. So please.
So what class? Have you play tested all these classes in your own campaign, or you just think of some, or
all the classes? Yes, every single spell. Probably not, but I mean they've been in print for several years, and I've gotten a ton of feedback on it. So all that's incorporated into it. So play testing has taken place. Maybe not at my.
In theory, they've been tested.
In theory, well, I have gotten a lot of feedback, so all that's been incorporated into it.
So the Kickstarter's launched. Yes. And are you doing 30 days, 2 weeks? What's 30
days? I went with the standard. I wanted to launch it the day before I left for Page, just because I knew I would get a bump out of Page from it.
Sure.
Because I had the book with me, so I did it around that. So yeah, but the standard 30 days. I actually do have another crowdfunding thing coming in April. On BackerKit, they're doing a mega dungeon month. So I thought that was a perfect excuse for me to get off my ass and finish a side level for Castle Mad Archmage that I've been working on for years. And just now I have a reason to get it finished. So that'll be coming in April, and there will of course be much braying about it from me.
Well, speaking of Castle of Mad Archmage, another bullet point for Joe here. So just talk about that a little bit just for a second. Go over the history of where that came from and why that even came about, and because that I remember when you were publishing that free online, like a level at a time,
right? So way back in the hoary mists of time, Trollord Games was publishing Gary's Castle Zagig, and that was going to be the definitive version of Gary's Castle, and we were all hugely excited. I've still got the box set on my thing. And they came out with the town of Yigsburg, and they came out with the first box set, which had the surface and the first level of the dungeon. And then Gary passes away, and the Widow Gygax.
We'll just cut to the chase with hilarity ensues.
The Widow Gygax eventually yanks the license from them and promises, yes, it's coming, more is coming. And then a year goes by, and half a year goes by, and I just say, okay, it's not happening. I got to do my own. So I wanted to finish Castle Zagig. So what I did was I started publishing free things on my blog. Every month I would do a level on the blog. There was one level that really kicked my ass and took like 3 months to do, but they were just hand-drawn maps and in a PDF, and I would just have it as a free download. And then eventually it got big enough, and I had already started to publish stuff under BRW Games. I did the first Adventures Dark and Deep book, and I said, well, I might as well just publish this. So I put it all together, tidied it all up, really made it nice, and published it, and that was it. And by sheerest happenstance, all of the stairways and everything from the storerooms level in Castle Zagig just happened to line up with level 2 of Castle Mad Archmage.
That's amazing.
What are the odds?
This is just like sometimes 2 great ideas one great idea spontaneously appears throughout the universe in multiple locations.
Yeah, it was just it was, surely we should talk to Ripley's Believe It or Not about this. But eventually, for the published version, I had to do a surface of my own, surface level and the first level of my own. So, but if you do have that, you can just you can use that first level that Troll Lords published way back when and hook it up to level 2, and it'll take you through the rest of it. But of course, Troll Lords is now republishing that and going into new levels, and no one is more excited about it than I am. So there's room for many mega dungeons in this world.
Well, I always wanted. I'll probably never get a chance to run Castle, although I do have it and I like reading it, and it's fun. I just remember reading through it. It's really, if you want to run a mega dungeon with not a lot of prep and have to worry about a lot of background or extra, like I ran back in the day. I ran Undermountain. That required quite a bit of prep. There's
a lot going on.
There's a lot going on Undermountain,
yeah.
and the same with Arden Vol. If you want to run Arden Vol, you better have a PhD in Arden Vol. I mean, good Lord, that thing is dense. But Archmage, you could just do there's tons of Easter eggs. There's a lot of little wink at you things in there. A lot
of anagrams and names and stuff, and
it's great. Yeah, you could just run that as you don't have to do a lot of prep on that one at all.
There's a crying fire elemental princess. And it's supposed to be the Lamentations of the Flame Princess.
Nice.
Things like that.
Well, I ran it like a decade ago with the B team, as I called it, the Friday night team. That was before I retired. And Joe, my players loved it, but since I was using a VTT, they got to see all the sloping passages, and that was a little ball busting going back and forth between
the current version has VTT friendly maps specifically because you said that.
Well, there you go.
You are the reason I made VTT friendly maps.
But they had a blast. They wanted. We were playing every other week, and they were like, "We're playing again, right?" I'm like, yeah, it's fun.
Oh, I run it at cons all the time. I'll be running it at North Texas, and I'm running it at TotalCon as well. And I always have a blast. And some of the most fun I get when people are running it is when people get lost, when they finally realize their map is nonsense, and they just laugh. They it's like the funnest part of the game is getting lost and trying to get out again. It's like, oh, I remember. Okay, I recognize this now, and I know where we are. This is so much fun.
My favorite getting lost a dungeon story was Rob Coots running El Raja K at First North Texas. And this is one of the reasons why I just, I said, look, I'm just going to map it. And I do the maps and I draw it out. And I tell them it's 100% going to be accurate. It's just this is what you see. Because Rob had them running in circles for 4 hours. And and to add insult to injury, he would insult the map drawers as they got things wrong, including Alan Grohe, who quit the map drawing duties because of Rob's taunts at him, and he just said, "Nope, not doing it anymore." And then they went through 3 mappers because everybody got it wrong. And at the end of the 4 hours, they were so lost in the depths. Rob says, "Just assume you guys all died because you're never going to get out."
I had one. I ran this at Long Island Tabletop Expo, and the group. The idea, their mission was to get out, and they came within about 30 feet of getting to the stairway out. And I just say, okay, you did it. We were like right at time, and they were literally around the corner from the stairway that would take them out. So they succeeded in that. But the other time I ran it at Long Island, some guy cast a fireball in the wrong place and self-TBK'd.
Ooh.
So that was
Fireball will do that. Fireball and lightning bolt without very much consideration will absolutely do that. I always love when I think I told this story a few weeks ago where somebody said I cast lightning and I said what? Everybody said no, but the table screamed because they realized where they were, and that lightning bolt would have probably bounced 17 times, and it would have been it would have not been pretty. And so that was hilarious. I cast light. No, and I was like, saved by the bell.
There's always that one. There's
My
always
eyes lit up so bright, and then they went down so low.
they're just ready to see the world burn, however they can light the match. And yes.
I was ready. I had the dice in my hand. I was like, all right, let's do it.
Are you sure? Yeah.
All right, so Laramie wants to show Joe his collection of Go Joe.
Of the who of the there. Oh yay! Well done, well done, my lad.
Nice.
That's a handsome shelf right there.
Wow, that's a fanboy for you right there. That is one fanboy.
I get people like that to this day. Even with all the stuff I have at a con, I keep having people just say, "Give me one of everything." I'm just like, "Yes, sir."
You know, there are worse things to complain about.
There is, yes.
I'm just going to throw that out there, right? You know,
OSR problems. Yes,
yes, yes, definitely OSR problems. Good Lord.
And Troggy Trog, I'm waiting for your trees to start exploding. So he was talking about how cold it is where he lives.
You know, I lived in Minnesota for 12 years, and the third week of January was always Hell Week. That was the week that it was minus 40 with the wind minus 50, and you batten down the hatches and you just braced. And it took a while for it to pass, and it eventually did pass. But what always happens is the week after. Next week is when the idiots in Minnesota, because it will be 30 degrees, 35 degrees, somewhere in there. It'll be just around freezing. But because it's technically 60 to 70 degrees warmer than the week before, they'll all wear shorts to the grocery store. Yeah. And that's where you're just like, you are fundamentally broken as people. And I got nothing.
Well, you know, this is good. This all ties in with the history of D&D, because, you know, it goes back to what were these guys doing in sub-zero temperatures in February? They were down in Gary's base with his sand table because he probably had a big old heater on blowing. There was
that's
nothing
where the boiler was. So it was the warmest room in the house. Yeah.
You know, probably this close to blowing up and killing all the, you know, legends of our hobby, because it was probably, you know, not a safe heater. But yeah, that's why we have D&D, because these guys had nothing to do for like 5 months every year. And
I thought the same thing. That's why the Upper Midwest is the home of this sort of thing of, you know, wargaming and role playing games and everything.
Oh yeah, wargaming too. Yeah, no internet, you know, no streaming. I mean, all these things that we take for granted. No cable TV. Just 6 burly, smelly men, a sand table, dice, and, you know, and a bunch of minis. I mean, that was what you had going.
Yeah.
And so yeah, that's why we have Dungeons and Dragons and all, you know, and probably half the war games we have too. Somebody sitting there going, what would it have been like if Japan did? Well, let's write a game, because we're not doing anything the next 4 months.
Exactly. We're all snowed in. We got to have something to do.
That's right.
Going out.
And come on, right? Like, this is the root of so many hobbies. You know, what am I going to do with all these exploding trees? I should make furniture. That's a great idea. But I'll make it in, like, you know, July, when everything's thawed.
Good idea.
It'll be great. But yes.
What am I going to do with these?
I didn't realize exploding tree thing until recently, and I read about that. I was laughing my ass off. It makes
apparently
sense,
when it gets cold enough, fast enough, that's when it happens.
Yep.
But still, like, the other thing I would say is that, you know, when we lived in Calgary, and we would drive out in the middle of winter to go see all the lakes that are in Banff that are frozen over, and slabs of ice that have cracked and come up, and they're 5 foot thick. It's just great. But you can just stand there and listen, and you can hear things frozen that are popping in the distance.
Yeah.
And it's just sort of like, it's like trench warfare with sporadic gunfire, right? You just hear the pops, and you can't sort of figure out where they're coming from. They're all around you. There's echoes, and it is really, really sort of nifty. But
I've never been there, but apparently in Iceland, you get the same kind of effect with these caves where you can hear the ice kind of cracking and moving. And it really makes me think that maybe that's where the legends of the trolls and the Jotnar came from, you know, that the land spirits are talking to you, because you hear that, you know, these weird noises emanating from these caves of ice.
I mean, I think it's possibly, oh no, Siegfried, you know, fill in the name of cute Dane girl. But no, you can't go out in the snow because the monsters might get the Jotun might get you. You should stay here and warm yourself by my fire. It's
Oh yeah, don't you know?
You're
You're doing the Minnesota.
great.
Oh yeah, don't you know?
That's right. It'll be wonderful if you just stay here with me and you won't freeze to death.
Oh, cheese and crackers.
Oh,
Come on,
no.
baby. It's cold outside, baby.
Yeah.
That's right.
There you
It's
go.
so cold outside.
Oh,
How
you
Cold
don't want-
outside.
oh,
The
no, no.
original D&D song, right? There you go.
You don't want those trolls to get after you, know.
The trolls, once you get a bad case of trolls, you got to go see the medicine woman, or
Oof,
it's going to stick around, you know.
Oof,
Oh, Rolf gave me those trolls last time he came back from Viking.
Oh my God.
no,
Our accents are really pretty hideous. Those are terrible.
yeah, we're awful. At
I think we went Irish and then we went.
We went everywhere.
I could tell I was Irish in that last
I don't
one.
know where we were going.
I lived there for 12 years, and my favorite joke in Minnesota were the Ole and Lena jokes. And here's the best one I ever heard, right? One day, Ole and Lena are out for a drive. And Lena says to Ole, she says, Ole, it's been a while. Why don't you pull the car over and we'll. And Ole's quick to take the car and he turns it over. He pulls over to the side of the road and they hop out of the car and there's shenanigans going on. And who should happen to come along but Ole's best friend, Sven. And Sven says, hey, Ole, what you doing down there? And Ole says, I'm changing a tire. Lena's helping me change a tire. Go on, Ole. Or go on, Sven. I don't need your help. He says, are you sure? Because your car's at the bottom of the hill because you didn't set the brake. And I had neighbors. We had next door neighbors. The first house we had in Minnesota, we had next door neighbors, and they sounded like Ole. They were like Ole and Lena. Like they literally had the thick Minnesota accents, and it was just great because they were as sweet as could be. You talk to them or whatever, but oh my God, the accent was spectacular.
Until I actually, I watched Fargo and I saw TV shows. Until I actually went to Wisconsin, though, I thought it was all exaggerated. It was just a joke, kind of because you hear people going, "Hey, what's up, partner? I'm from Texas," and nobody talks like that. I mean, maybe some people, but not really. And so I thought that, okay, well, nobody in Wisconsin actually talks like that. And the first time I heard it, blew my socks off. I was like, "Are they doing a joke? Is this?" Oh, this is real. Oh,
this is real.
One of my best friends is from Jersey City, and he's got that thick New Jersey accent that you hear in like Goodfellas and stuff like that. He's like Joe Pesci level.
Eric's never heard that, I'm sure. He's
Never.
Look at Eric Twitch.
And there's no parts of Southie in Boston when you get that really heavy New England.
Oh
But they're all
God!
disappearing. All the
Okay,
accents
so
disappearing.
you guys have to look for this clip. I guess Ben Affleck and Matt Damon have a new movie on Netflix that's I watched it. It's but they're doing a promotional tour, so they went on Fallon, and the clip is Fallon, Affleck, and Damon just reading Massachusetts city names in Boston accents. And my friend called me today and we were talking about it. And he said, because he grew up sort of halfway between Boston and Cambridge. And he's like, it was like listening to the people in the old country. He said it warmed his heart. He said, every mass hole just can hear this and is like, it's the siren call of the mass.
I lived in Boston for 8 years. I know exactly what it sounds like. Yeah.
And of course, nobody thinks they have an accent. I mean, I didn't think I had a Texas accent until I went to Europe. Everybody's like, "Oh, you're from Texas." I'm like,
how do you?
I've done great pains to make myself not sound like a hillbilly.
No, you
And
get it
they're
in
like,
the
"Oh
R's
yeah,
sometimes.
yeah,
You
you're
get some of your
Texas,
vowels. Some of your R's and vowels, you get it. Yeah.
And so they know immediately. I'm like, the same way I know people come down from, up north, like, "Oh, you're from Massachusetts, aren't you?"
Yeah, but every region has it. I mean, I spent my summers in the Poconos as a kid, and I still remember. Can Eric come out and play? And the neighbors had a new living room suite. What the hell's a living room suite? Living room suite.
But
Did
all
you
those
ever-
regional accents
Eric,
are disappearing, which is a tragedy. I think it's a bad thing, but television, people get
I
their
was
accents
gonna
on TV, not
say,
from their neighbors.
I can't. Something happened to me. Were you talking, Joe? I flipped in and out. I'm sorry.
I was just
Well,
saying that
you
the
had
regional
his
accents are
problem.
disappearing.
I cut it in and out a sec. I'm sorry, but I was going to say that I bet Eric never one time ever pulled over and had to deal with a thick Boston accent person. In his job.
Actually, only once, but he was soliciting prostitutes, and he was an off-duty Massachusetts cop, and we just didn't want to know. Didn't
See,
want to
now,
know.
I'm from Eastern Kentucky, right? So one of my best friends from back home was a shift lead at the county jail, and I can assure you, if you want to see the best / worst that Eastern Kentucky has to offer, this was an ideal viewing location. Like this, they could have shot Marlon Perkins and Mutual of Omaha's Wild Kingdom, and it would have been just. And my favorite story he had, and I'll keep it brief, is that one night he gets a call, and like a lot of jails, they have a carport, right? So that the cops can pull under the carport and get whoever and just take them straight into the jail if the weather's bad or whatever. And he gets a call to come to the carport because the state police and the county sheriffs, they've hauled somebody in and they need a hand. So he walks out to the carport and the two guys are standing there and they're like, oh my God, he's just a nightmare. You got to take care of this. You know, both of us have tried to get him out of the car. And my friend Dan, who looks like Sam Elliott, says, oh, come on. You know, it's Friday night. And they're like, oh, you know, you got to do this. And he opens the door and says, okay, get on out of here. And it's nothing but swearing. And he's like, okay, come on. And he reaches in, the guy kicks at him. And finally, Dan's just like, screw it. And he reaches in, he grabs a hold of the guy and he yanks him out and slams him against the wall. Because, of course, he's been kicking Dan the whole time. And he puts him up against the wall. And he says, two things happen at once. He said, the cop and the sheriff, or I'm saying the state trooper and the sheriff, fall over laughing because at the same time they're bent over laughing and dying, he's being kicked in the stomach because the person that he's hauled out of the back of the state trooper's car is in fact an Irish jockey. And he is about 4 feet tall. And Dan has him up against the wall like this high. And lo and behold, the guy is kicking him in the stomach because he's now like 3.5, 4 feet off the ground. And Dan's like, oh, it's going to be one of those nights.
Scenes from Robert Reich's youth, apparently.
Yes. So all the shenanigans.
Oh my God.
So what's your convention tour looking like this year? So you've just got Page out of the way.
Got Page out of the way. Next one up is TotalCon in Massachusetts. Then I've got Long Island. No, then I've got.
If you were going to say Long Island iced teas, I would totally understand.
Yeah. No, it's. I think the next one is WizardCon, right? And then
WizardCon's in April, but I think the one in Long Island isn't that in March?
I thought, is it March? If only I had a calendar right here on my computer I could look at. So yeah, I got WizardCon, I got a Long Island Tabletop Expo, I've got Central New York, North Texas. I've got there's one down in Charlotte, which I'm going to, I'm hopefully going to. I've been wanting to do something in the Southeast for a long time, and this guy was at Page and just gave me the card, so I got to set that up. I'm going to be at Historicon as a player. I'm going to be running a lot of Ogre, and I'll probably be running my Greyhawk Minis game. So WizardCon, yeah. So just trying to see if I'm forgetting anything. ShireCon, I'm hoping to be able to make it up to ShireCon again. I'll be Historicon. Yeah, I think that's about it. So I'm doing
You're
like
pretty busy.
Yeah, like 7 or 8 cons of one type or another. I don't think I'm vending at anything except Page. I'm going to be as a guest running games, which is of course really cool because I get to run games, I get to make videos, I get to hang out with people, and not be tied behind a table all weekend long.
Sure,
right.
So what's the scenario you like running at conventions? What's the number one thing you like to pull out of your back pocket and run people through?
RPGs or games in general?
Well, now you mentioned Ogre, so I feel like that's something we got to poke that dead bear.
That Ogre is right now. Ogre is my favorite game to run, just because I've always loved miniature games, and Ogre is just such a fun. The rules are only like 30 pages long in big type with lots of things. Very easy rules, very complex strategies come out of those rules. I love the aesthetic of the miniatures. I've got tons of the terrain and the figures and everything. So
sure.
I just enjoy playing it and watching other people play it. So
And so, do you just run the ogre and watch as they all flail and try to stop the ogre? I mean, that would be.
I got a whole bunch of different scenarios, with ogres on both sides and things like that. In fact, right now I've got a scenario where it's going to be an urban assault scenario, and I've been making these rubble sections out of buildings. And what happens is I've got the actual buildings that look exactly like this, and I just took a reciprocating saw and just chopped them off, and I've been basing them and everything. So as the buildings get destroyed, I replace them with the rubble.
Nice.
And the idea, you're assaulting a city, and so the idea is you don't want to destroy too many buildings, or else you lose victory points. So there's a lot of stuff like that going on. RPGs, my go-to is Castleman Archmage, because I can. You give me a character level, and I got a level of the dungeon for you. So I keep that. That's going to be my main go-to, especially for North Texas, because I'm not going to be able to bring minis with me if I'm flying. So I'm going to be doing RPGs. I'm actually thinking about doing either the Giants series, over the course of the whole weekend, or maybe the Descent into the Depths of the Earth. So we'll see.
Now, Joe, if you ever want to run Ogre at North Texas, we have the Kickstarter version of Ogre in the files. We just never use it.
And it's somebody who has traveled with miniatures before, it isn't that hard. You want to make sure it's in the carry-on, and you want to get a Plano case or something like that. But if you've got more than you can do in a regular just base carry-on,
I've got a whole thing where it's on wheels and magnetic, and
Pro tip: gun rifle cases or a Pelican case, and I have seen fabulous armies shipped with Pelican cases that have arrived with no problems whatsoever. Because no matter what the airlines do to it, a Pelican case, for the most part, can take the damage and shrug it off.
That's cool. That's interesting to know. But Mike, I think I will take you up on that, because I can run it off of the board.
It's Doug's old set. Yeah, Doug's old set. We
big one, right? The big designer edition one.
Big gigantic one. Yeah, we put them all. They're already assembled. We spent a weekend, Doug and I, putting them all together and played one time, and then packed it back up. And I think it's been out like two times in the last 10 years. So we tell anybody they want to run Ogre, we will bring that. Same with Fantasy Trip. We have the entire Fantasy Trip Kickstarter, everything. We have the all-in Kickstarter for that. That if anybody, Steve Winter used that a couple years ago, because he was going to run Fantasy Trip. We said, look, we've got everything. This box has everything for Fantasy Trip. So we brought it for him. But yeah, we have the Ogre.
Okay, then I'll do that. And as long as I get to have a seat in the chariot race, because I am going to brag. I won the Historicon chariot race last year. So I am.
Those are fighting words, my friend.
I love that the with the big layout with the chariots and the minis and everything. It was a hoot.
Historicon they do a good job.
They do a great job. Yeah.
I don't know how good our trophies are pretty nice. Our trophies are made by Diesel. Diesel sculpted our trophies. They're pretty amazing.
Nice.
So I don't know what the Historicon trophies are like, but our trophies are pretty ridiculous.
But do you let the players design their own characters? Their own drivers?
Yes. Well, they roll. It's random. It's a random roll at the beginning. I think you get to switch your abilities around a little bit, but I think for the most part you're kind of stuck with it.
Because I chose the light chariot, and I chose the driver that makes you go fast, and I was literally half the track ahead of everybody else, because everybody else took the normal one.
If you want to win the race, you either choose the fast or the regular. If you just want to cause chaos and misery and have people shake their fists at you, you choose heavy, because you're not
the heavy, and you choose
you're going to create havoc everywhere you go, and you're going to create
bloodbath.
It's going to be wonderful. So, needless to say, I usually choose heavy just for the laugh.
Wow,
involved.
I saw at Page, and I saw somebody actually had a rollerball.
Yeah.
Like with the track, and they had the figures and the motorcycles, and he wasn't there.
Now that's
my God, if I could get a rollerball track, I would run that at every convention. That would be awesome.
Corporate society was inevitable, Jonathan. Such a great movie. Such a great movie.
And it's much deeper than most people give it credit for because of the game. But
Yes.
yeah, you're right. It's all about collectivism and corporate society and everything. It's just such a phenomenal.
We're almost
Yeah.
there when it comes to corporation zoning. I mean, we're not too far away.
But now,
from that
did you
happening, I
guys
don't
did you
think.
guys catch the greatest story from Monday night's Indiana University victory? This is the like, we're at the point where everybody wants to write about this, but they've got to find new angles to write to. And my favorite is that a Wall Street Journal reporter had caught a rumor and followed up on it. And consistency is the Indiana University. I mean, that's the coach's. I mean, he lives it, he breathes it every day. He eats the same lunch from Chipotle every day. There are three Chipotles in Bloomington. And when he places his order, usually somebody else will pick it up, but every single person that works the line to make to-go orders knows his order, and they don't skimp on it, right? Like, how some people are like, I didn't get enough, whatever. But he doesn't change. And my favorite nugget is last year he had 64,000 points in Chipotle rewards sitting in his account.
Damn.
And
Jeez.
and then the other interesting bit was that Chipotle, for people who have gone above and beyond to talk well of Chipotle, they have the Chipotle Black Card. And the Black Card entitles you to one entree, one drink, and I don't know, some side or a bag of chips or something once a day.
Jesus.
And there's an NFL football player that was very famous for saying, I eat at Chipotle once a day. I love it. I don't know how the rest of you can or whatever. And they hooked him up. But when asked, Chipotle corporate said, we are in touch with the coach. So, he may not have to ever pay for Chipotle again. And I'm kind of happy about that. I think he's earned it.
Well, hopefully he needs to gift his points to somebody. Wink, wink. Come on,
but
coach.
I just love that 64,000 points. And the guy who wrote the article actually doped out how much free food that would equate to, and it's an astonishing amount of Chipotle. It's just great.
So I know this win meant a lot to Jim because he is. He's kind of in that area, so he's probably closer to a lot of the
here. Okay, I'll go. Let me rant for a minute, right? Like I'm really fucking tired of hearing about the Big Ten and the SEC and Alabama rolled Tide, and I'm from Kentucky, right? And the state religion is basketball. There isn't a garage. Every other garage in Kentucky has a basketball hoop on it. I speak ill not of my beloved Wildcats and so on and so forth. But when it comes to college football, I think we can all say, and I'm sorry, Gary, we're all sick of the Ohio State. And I'm tired of Alabama. And I'm tired of hearing about Penn State, blah, blah, blah. I just don't care anymore. But what's so great to me is that all these powerhouses, ever since the transfer portal became a thing, we have all these schools like UCLA and Alabama and so on who've just been tripping over themselves to bribe great players away from smaller schools, and it's completely decimated an entire swath of departments across the country. And what we have to love about Indiana winning was that not only did they beat the Ohio State, but they also did it with recruits that were overlooked by the machinations of all the names that you would talk about. And even though they went into this game on Monday night with a better record, for some reason they decided to play the fucking game in Miami. Okay, fine. And at the end of it, I've really thought about this a lot since Monday. Everybody has seen Hoosiers. And there's the great scene where, the small town team walks into what is a cavernous basketball arena. And the boys, for a moment, are just, oh shit, we're in it, right? Like we're from our little tiny town and we have to play here. And then Gene Hackman, as the coach, makes one of the boys get up on top of another kid's shoulders and gives him a tape measure. And he has him measure from the hoop to the court. And he has him do a couple of other measurements. And then he says, just like home. And the coach at Indiana, he managed to take this. I don't think misfits is the right term, but he managed to take these kids that were overlooked by all the people who knew better. And he didn't just weld them into the best football team in the United States this year. I mean, we always talk about the Dolphins in the perfect season. Like, everybody from Indiana is going to be able to talk about this. And all the people that we know, like Gary, who loves the Ohio State, are going to have to swallow and try to explain why, with all of that alumni money, with all that they could shovel into the table, how did you guys get beat so badly? Like, that's going to gnaw at all of them for the next year. And I'm perfectly okay with that, right? Indiana University is going to see alumni donations. And let's not forget the other great part of this story. Indiana University only had one alumni who's been tossing them any serious money and who has been coming to their football games nonstop for years, and that's John Mellencamp. He donated $1.5 million for them to build an athletic facility because what they had was a piece of shit. And in return, because he's a chain smoker, they built a little hut on top of the building where the press sits and all the TV crews and so on. They built him a little hut on top with, I think, like 4 chairs in it, so he can sit and chain smoke and watch the games. And the president of the university said, I've never been invited to the hut, and it's okay because I don't smoke, but he's important to us. And you know, when you have family in your house, when you have family that smoke, right? Like, smokers were the worst class, the most mistreated Americans forever and ever, right? We made them stand outside to smoke. They've been absolutely taken to task for decades. And lo and behold, this one small accommodation for the guy that wrote the check for $1.5 million. They built him a hut. They gave him some chairs. I think it's kind of semi-heated, but it's just the most wonderful little afternote on all of this. So tell me, the Ohio State, how are you going to beat Indiana next year? I'm waiting.
Well, see, my alma mater is Boston University, and the Boston University Terriers, they actually terminated the program in 1997. It gets better because they lost like over $1 million or whatever. And the thing is, there was at BU, because it's integrated into the city, and they have this thing called West Campus, and West Campus is basically the football stadium with dorms around it. So, like, if you're in West Campus, you're overlooking the thing. What do they do with that now? I haven't been there in so long. Like, is there just like this empty football stadium at BU where if you're in West Campus, because that's where all the jocks were, obviously. What happened to that space? I haven't the foggiest idea, but it's just when I was there, that was the thing. You know, all the jocks were in West Campus because that's where the football stadium was, and everybody else was in Warren Towers, which is the second largest dorm in the country. And it was just. I
don't feel bad talking about this for a hot minute, just simply because it's such a landmark, right? It's such a landmark event, you know. As
Jim, let me tell you a stat here that I heard today. This blows my mind. Even if you don't know sports ball, this is going to blow your mind. The Indiana program has been around since 1895, I believe. They have won in that time 6 bowl games.
Right.
So before they had a national championship, they would have bowl games. They've won 6 entire bowl games the entire time. 3 were this year.
And
3 were this year. That means they won 3 bowl games in over 100 years. That's how hard it was for Indiana to do anything.
We're not talking the Jets, right? We're talking
The Jets are
The
worse.
Jets are actually
this
worse.
is-
Yes, the Jets
Go
are
Pats.
But
conceivably
I mean,
worse.
that is mind blowing. I think the last one, Jim, was like in 1979. I mean, it's ridiculous. You can't go that way. Look, my alma mater, TCU. We've won
Go
bowl
Frogs.
games, and we've been no good for years. I mean, it's just almost impossible to imagine a division program like that not winning a bowl game.
And I think that's what makes it all so delicious, right? That they didn't just win, but they had a season that frankly you couldn't have imagined for Hollywood, right? Like this is the stuff of legends. And if you've ever gone to a state school, if you've had to endure your friends who have reminded you about their unbelievably successful football programs, and I got a bunch of friends, Roll Tide, yeah, whatever, and so on.
Yeah.
But really and truly, like, okay, at the end of the season, you guys were losers. And this guy from Bloomington, Indiana, kicked your asses. And the article, another article I read today was really interesting because it pointed out that he came from a tier of coaching, and I'm going to tie it into D&D, right? So
Thank God.
what don't make me put some things in shrink wrap. So what makes a great game master? What makes a great DM? What makes somebody who really produces or runs a game that really gets your attention? And that's somebody who understands all of the top to bottom, right to left, right? They need to understand how maps work and how you can have maps and how this ties together. They need to have a good idea of random encounters and what are good random encounters and what aren't good random encounters, what works for where they are. They need to understand character generation. I always thought that the best way to sit down with people who want to play in a game is to ask them, what kind of character do you want to play? Like, tell me what sort of hero you want to be. And then I'll go away and I'll come up with something that sort of matches that. And it's having that full skill set. It's having that full skill set that you can put on whatever hat you need to, right? I understand combat and I can run combat efficiently in a way that doesn't have players walking away from the table. I can come up with an adventure that makes sense thematically and so on and so forth without dwelling on the monster's motivations. And that's where great football coaches come from, is that there's an entire middle tier of guys whose schools can't afford the hundreds of assistants and so on and so forth, and they got to figure out how to do it all themselves. And those people now in the environment of the transfer portal are invaluable. And there's about a half a dozen guys that are going to rise up, and we're going to see them poached for programs like Michigan or whatnot, where they bring an understanding, a 20,000 foot view that can go granular if it needs to, the same way a great game master has an idea and has the root of an idea for an adventure, but can then execute on it at every single aspect. Boom, mic drop.
No, that's and that's what's interesting. College football is one of the few sports where coach does matter, because the pro sports, look, if you have bad players, you're going to have a bad team, and if you have great players, I mean, the Cowboys famously won a Super Bowl with goofball coach, what's his name from OU. I mean, the guy eating hot dogs on the sideline that wasn't paying attention. But yeah, college is an actual sport where the coach matters, and I think I love cool sports stories, because I'm big into take this into gaming too. I'm a big underdog dude. Whenever I sit down and I'm watching a football game, what team's going to lose? I'm rooting for that team. Which means I root for the Jets a lot, Eric. When I'm watching.
Well, thank you. I root for Dallas a lot.
Yeah. Oh well, see, I've even given up on them. So you're more optimistic than I am. But,
Okay.
but I mean, yeah. So that's the same thing with D&D. There's nothing cooler than your party's going up and you accidentally messed up the symbol and there's a pit fiend. We're dead. I mean, yeah. we're 8th level. I mean, the pit fiend's going to absolutely wipe the floor with us. We're done. and to see the players by dint of their skill and knowledge and maybe a couple lucky rolls overcome something like that. That is the coolest thing about our game. And I think we talked about this a few weeks ago where I was saying my favorite moment in Stranger Things 5 seasons was the first episode, season 4. That's probably one of my favorite episodes of the entire series. And that's where they get Erica to play the character because her brother's playing basketball. And they're doing the game with Eddie, and everybody's getting wiped out, and she's the only one left, and she's got to roll a 20. She's got to roll a 20 to win. Yeah. So while they're doing that, they're juxtaposing her brother playing basketball, and he takes the last shot in the game, and he sinks it, and then Erica rolls, and there's the 20, and the table just goes nuts, and then Eddie just says, "And that's why we play the game." And I was just like, yes. I mean, that episode of any episode that hit it, that's why, that hit it absolutely nail on the head. And I was just like, bing, so they got it. The Duffer Brothers got it. That's what D&D's about, man. It's about those moments.
All right. So there's a question in the chat I want to pull up and then I want to answer it away. So Douglas Pearson asks, so here's a question. What does being a good DM train you for in real life? And I read something today. I read a piece today at lunch that was just a brief throwaway, but essentially it was, if as a recruiter you come across a resume with somebody who is a internationally ranked, i.e. top 200 player of a video game, you need to immediately hire that person. And the discussion that revolved around that his point revolved around was this, which is, and for those of you who don't know, I've mentioned this on the show before. My kid was top 200 Rainbow Six Siege, Tom Clancy's Rainbow Six Siege. My kid was one of the twitchy freak. My favorite story is he killed 3 people with one shot in a room he couldn't see because he could tell from the sounds of where they were walking in the game. He knew where they were. He lined up his shot. And he killed 3 players on the opposing team with one shot. Like, it's just insanity. But the guy today was making the point because his point was this, that to become an apex predator in a video game, when you get to top 200 rank, this is somebody who has demonstrated a few skills that you want to hire for you. Number one, they've taken the drudgery and they've accepted the drudgery. And they have put in the time to master what the drudgery has taught them, right? My kid can tell you where anybody is on this map by listening, just by listening, right? He could close his eyes and tell you where the other players are. The people who have done this, the people who have done this, who have reached that level, have also demonstrated that they're willing to see this through, that they're willing to put in the hours, they're willing to put in the practice, they're willing to put in the effort. And that when you're hiring somebody for a position, this is exactly the sort of thing that you want to find in an employee, because they're willing to accept drudgery as long as they can see the reward that's going to come with it, right? Like, it's somebody who wants to be a welder. You can dangle the 100,000 starting salary at them, and they understand that 2 years of working as at a welding school is going to get them there. And the better their welds, the bigger that check is going to be, because it correlates that if your welds look like microbeads, you're going to start at $150,000 to $200,000. So what does being a good DM train you for? I think it teaches you how to think on the fly. I mean, Mike and Eric, and to some degree, Bob here, have seen this, which is, I think on my feet pretty quickly, particularly at an auction, right? I got a lot of stuff coming at me, and I have to be able to handle the disruptive bidder. I have to handle the bidders that want to be seen. I have to do this and so on and so forth. I think you have to find a way to communicate those skills, and I think you have to figure out a way to apply that. Conflict resolution. It isn't enough to just send a player to the kitchen and a player outside to the front porch. You got to figure out a way to actually bring the game back on to the rails and sort of see it where it needs to go. I think you have to make sure that people are getting what they want from your game, And I think a lot of times people don't take that into account. They have an idea, they want to run people through it, but people have to walk away from your table or your living room or your kitchen table or whatever. They have to walk away from that having had a good time, right? This is what I always talk about. Like my friend Dean and I used to walk the paper route and talk about D&D adventures. And we used to talk about G1, G2, G3, D1, D2, D3. We talked about that because like we all had those modules, but you can't predict what's going to happen. Dean had a friend named Perry, and Perry did something particularly stupid during G2, and I heard about that for a week because it's going to live forever, right? Because in those moments that you create, collaborative storytelling is really at the heart of great role playing, and you want to have a situation happen. You set up the situation. You can't predict how it's going to go. But the best result is the one where the players are still talking about it a decade later or 2 decades later, or in my case, 40 years later. And Perry Lipker's stupidity in G2 is still being discussed. I could probably call Dean right now and ask him about Perry's asshatedness, and it's going to come out. And that
how long would another encounter with giants be talked about? That we often reference on this show.
Yes.
That might be talked about for another 40 or 50 years too.
I hopefully after I'm gone, the story will live on. But yes, and I think that's the stuff that makes you what really defines you as a great DM is the thing that you can bring to the table that people walk away with and they talk about and like, oh my God, right? If he runs that game, you ought to get into it. We talk about people who run games at conventions and whatnot, and one of the most important things is, you got to find the great you got to find the great DMs. Harley Stroh, oh my God, amazing! If you can get into a Harley Stroh game, you should sell the kidney. You absolutely should sell the kidney. But then there are people who are we'll simply call them painful DMs. God love his heart. I loved Ernie Gygax to death. He was a great guy, but playing with him was like, it was literally like somebody taking their nails down a chalkboard nonstop for hours. It was
I've heard the opposite, that he was really good. I've never played with him myself.
I've heard not good things, Joe.
Oh, okay.
Move 10 feet, have a random encounter. Move 10 feet, have a random encounter.
His claim to fame when he ran DM, when he was DM, was he would talk about things. He was just an interesting person to talk while he's running the game. But his game, but his conversation during the game, interesting, because he'd talk about his dad, and here's why we did this, and this monster was created here. But I have not heard any scintillating.
But the other is that you can't hold Ernie's style to modern role-playing games, because he was very firmly rooted in the original form of Dungeons and Dragons, which was essentially miniature wargaming with some wonky rules added on. So it made much more sense to just move and have an encounter, move and have an encounter, move and have an encounter, move and have an encounter. And the only time I played with him, and I have been warned by everyone, the only time I played with him, we got no further than 30, 40 feet into the dungeon, and that was over the course of 4 hours. And like my friend is sitting next to me, and we walked out and we were like, we get to check that we played a game with Ernie, but we will never play another game.
Cool point. Well, I always tell the story about one of our first cons. We had a guy come specifically to play with some of the legends of the game, and he played a game with Rob Kuntz, and I can't remember the other person who might still be alive, so I'm not going to mention his name. And afterwards, he was irate, and he came to Doug and I. He said, I came to this convention, and that was the worst games I've ever played. I came to this convention, and I signed up for their games because I wanted a good game with Rob Kuntz and fill in the blank. And Doug, to his credit, said, no, you didn't come here for a good game with Rob and the other guy. You came here for a game with Rob and the other guy. And this is how they run their games, and this is the old school. And I'm sorry, this is just how they're running the games the same way they did back in 1978. So you got a historical experience. Was it a good historical experience? No, it was not. But you got that experience. And the guy was like, "Oh, you're right." And it was like, because you're just getting the experience to Rob's running a game. Now, Rob's games are notoriously just I've seen him run 3 different games. I've never played his game, but I've seen him sat at a table near him watching him run, and they are all over the place, man. They are all over the place. And so, yes, is that a great game? No. Are you playing with one of the legends of the game the same way they ran it 50 years ago? Yes. Check it off. As Jim said, put your bullet point there and check off I played with fill in the blank and just move along and say, okay, well, that was something. We had another guy came to our con every year. You would know who he was. Not going to say his name because he might not be with us anymore. And people would usually only play in one of his games. And then they would say, okay, well, I played in a blank game. And I can say that because they just did not. And very few people enjoyed his gaming style, the way he did things.
But let me answer the question from my own experience, because I'm an IT project manager by trade.
We would never have guessed.
I've got conventions that are scheduled out into 2027. And Eric will tell you I've got videos like through the end of February already.
Oh yeah, he's
shocked I am to hear there's gambling at Rick's.
Yeah. But one of the skills that you have to have as a project manager is one of the skills that you absolutely must have as a dungeon master. And that is the ability not only to make a plan, but to be willing to drop that plan or adjust that plan based on circumstances. And that is, I think those two things are really tied together, because you as a dungeon master, you're making the game, you know the way the scenario is going to go, you've made the dungeon or whatever, but you know that it's not going to go the way you planned, and you need to be not just able but willing to let go of your plan. And
totally agree.
Some PMs are not willing to let go of their plan. No, you need to go here and rescue this person, and I've seen it happen. And
Rob ran an entirely naturalistic game. That was how games were run. And by I mean entirely naturalistic. If you went 3 hours without an encounter and he was rolling, you didn't get an encounter. You just and he did that. The game I watched where he ran these guys around and get them lost in the dungeon. They had one encounter in 3 hours. They fought some gnolls, and he would just roll the dice, go, you're just not running into anything, because he did it entirely naturalistic. That was what he grew up with. He didn't believe in throwing in, well, these guys are born out of their skull, I'm going to throw in an encounter or two just because they're falling asleep at the table. Nope. That was not how he did it. And that's the same for a lot of DMs from that period.
Same concept, kind of in the reverse, but yeah.
Yeah,
so
I was in. We're going to be naturalistic. We're just going to. The dice say what's going to happen. If the dice say around the corner is a red dragon, your first level, guess what? You're toast, because it's going to be a red dragon your first level. I'm taking I'm not pulling any punches.
And I was in a game where the DM. I was in a celebrity game where the DM did not necessarily want to drop the hammer, because we had a celebrity guest who was disruptive, and that was Rudy Rutinger. Satine Phoenix's old.
Oh boy!
Oh yeah,
Jameson, her buddy,
and he was disruptive at all steps of the adventure. And we finally had a break, and somebody went over to him and said, "You need to understand something. These people are in this game, and it was a Hyperborea game, to play in an untested adventure. They did not sign up for this game because they wanted you to disrupt the game with your behavior, because you've decided to take the character in directions that aren't on the paper.
Your shenanigans.
That they're ready to pretty much beat you up if you don't stop." And afterwards, like, he came around and he's like, "I feel bad, and I'd like to run a game for you guys tomorrow and make it up for you." And I said, "No, like, first of all, we all have plans for tomorrow. And number two, you should have enough sense to read the room before you go in the direction that you did. And so you pretty much ruined the game for everybody at the table. And now you're apologizing because somebody called you out. And that's not our fault. It's not our fault you decided to
but
do
he's
what
not
you did."
He's not only apologizing. He is apologizing and then trying to make himself the center of attention yet again.
Yes,
by running
that's
a
right.
game.
And if you wanted to encapsulate the Rudy Rutinger experience, this was it, right? And I rarely say this, but I mean, if he was on fire, I would have to really think about peeing on him to put it out.
Ooh.
And,
How many bottles of water have I had today? Is it?
I might not drink as many if I
By
knew
the
I
way,
was going to run into him on fire.
This ties into Eric had a really good video that I watched tonight before I got the show about dungeon tubers. And I didn't understand what he was talking about until I talked to him after the show. But if you get a chance, go watch this video. And I think did you and Joe the lawyer also
Joe did one, and he was like, it's hot, it's on fire, do it." He did his was about AI and dungeon tubers.
Oh, the other Joe did, yeah.
Dungeon tuber
Joe
slot.
Lawyer.
Yeah, the other
great.
Joe.
It makes me think about this because we're getting to the point now where I worry that people that are getting the D&D experience are going to get this homogenized AI fueled, bullshit.
Yeah, they're gonna get the electric chips.
Yeah.
In their snack.
Eric, I think this could be a good topic for our group to.
You should talk about it.
Yeah.
I was very interested because I'm looking for this guy called Dungeon Tuber that's putting out these shitty AI videos. And Eric says, no, it's just a generic name. I'm like, oh, okay.
No,
Dungeon Tuber.
The DM skills in real life. I think that would be a really good.
Oh, yeah, no, definitely. That would. Listen, I think player skills in real life. There were times when I was a rookie cop, I didn't know what to do, and I was getting, not panicking, but, stressful. And I go, well, if I was role-playing a cop, what would I do? And you can step back a second, and it was a great tool, because
improvisational skills in general are
yes.
Like it's the same thing if you were like in an improv comedy thing.
The Dungeon Tuber. I'm sorry if you haven't watched the video yet. It basically Eric just rails, and as he should, about these generic AI-driven or created videos on YouTube that do just. Hey, here's the 10 secrets of how to run a D&D game, or here's the 25 things, and they're just bullshit. They're garbage that you already know. Yeah. It's all clickbait. It's to get you to click. You don't really learn anything. You look at the 10 steps to becoming the best dungeon master ever. All 10 steps are bullshit, and you look at them all, and you're not going to be a better DM by looking at them. And it's just kind of this whole industry now. It's not just D&D, it's any industry.
Right. But do you know why that happens? And I'll tell you why, because I watched a number of videos on how do I improve my YouTube channel. And you know what? The worst advice, but the most popular advice is find successful videos on your topic and repeat them.
God.
Well, I've done that mostly because I've been doing this so long that I've forgotten that I talked about it before. It's more just like, that would be cool. Oh, I did that 3 years.
You have the whole clickbait bullshit. Where they D&D is over, and here's why. And God love her, the Irish chick that used to do those, once a week.
Oh, I remember her. Where did she go?
Dragons in Discourse. I still watch her. I love her.
The end of D&D. Here's what happened, and you click it, and it'd be just like,
Yeah, no, she's got the worst
thing, and you're just like, oh, I got sucked in.
But I love listening to that weird Irish accent.
You got that weird. I mean, it's just like, it's the craziest.
Oh, it's like the lipstick.
Clickbaity as hell, and you would click it and you go, dang it, she got me again because she said D&D was over.
I still watch your videos.
The biggest scandal in D&D in years.
Yeah, and it's like, Dan Abuelo stole a Coke out of the break room, and you're like, oh, she got me again. So yeah, I think that's really interesting because I do see those videos sometimes, but I got to the point now where I kind of steer away. If I see any kind of lists, I generally steer away from because they're usually pretty terrible. My wife and I saw one today. I just wish I could remember it because it was something. Oh God, I got to remember. But it was like 10 steps to cooking, to better cooking something, and like step 1 is read the recipe.
We must be talking about men.
Lists in general are not innately bad. Like I've done, like top 5 Greyhawk modules, and I explain why and stuff.
I think
you explained why. These lists, they don't explain. They just do an info dump. You explain.
Yeah. No, you guys put together a good
video, and you're not wrong.
I would trust your guys' list, or if we put together a list. The problem is there's so many bogus lists out there.
But that's just it. You know me and you know my videos, but somebody just coming in off the turnip truck isn't going to know me.
If Rob Conley does a video on creating a sandbox, I'm there. Because Rob, he knows how to create a sandbox. And so,
all right, let's take a breath. Let's take a breath. Since the word bogus came up, I think we should perhaps hit a little bit of the topic we discussed last week. Eric, I believe that you have a special video that's coming out tomorrow.
I do have a special video.
I think we should discuss that for a few moments.
Oh, let's do.
Okay. So this video, by the way, folks, you're not getting anything new. It was from November of 2024 when Ken Whitman, however he's referring to himself.
Here
we go.
He wanted to come on Don Samora's show because he wanted me on. So I was like, well, listen, have him on, but I'll control from the back. I'll just hang out and not worry about it. And he's like, no, I want Eric on the show. I'm like, why? Well, the reason why is because he needed my forgiveness, approval, my go forth, your sins have been forgiven. Which, by the way, if you watch the video, folks, you will see me turn into cop mode, which you've probably never seen on video. I turn into cop mode with Ken because my bullshit meter hit a certain point, and I couldn't take no more bullshit.
So let's talk about things for a minute. So, interestingly enough, I spent some time today doing a little bit of reading, reminding myself of all things pencil dice. And I think what's really interesting about the pencil dice campaign is what you see when you actually go to when you actually pull it up, and I'm looking at it right now. Let's not forget that Pencil Dice was a Kickstarter staff pick, a project we love. $38,000 raised with
because they weren't
1,351.
Calm yourself. Keep it
But
I must interject to point out that my book is already written.
Oh,
right now. There's an actual book already.
No, you're ruining it. You're ruining it.
All right, Eric, I sent a link. I just want you to take a look at that.
I'm gonna put it in the chat.
Yeah, you should put this up. Well, no, I was actually gonna say put this up on screen because I want to read this.
Oh yeah.
This is what you see for the creator profile for all 6 of Ken Whitman's failed to deliver Kickstarters.
I read this too today. All right, hold on.
These are 6 kickstarting efforts.
It's one of those
that
good lists.
Never shipped. Okay, now there are some people who claim to have gotten some, but let's read this aloud. My name is Ken Whitman, and I am a bad businessman when it comes to figuring out how much money I need to create a Kickstarter. I started 6 Kickstarter. Now, again, he could have said I created 6 Kickstarters, but no, it's Ken. So let's read this in Ken speak. I started 6 Kickstarter and have only managed to officially finish 1 to date. I am still working to finish them. Thank you for your patience. What one finished?
All right. Now, I'm going to close
Which one had its carcass dragged across the finish line where we
the one that had its carcass dragged across the finish line, theoretically, is the one that Ken did not finish. Knights of the Dinner Table was brought across the finish line, not with the good video, but with like the B video by I forget, Zoe Entertainment. It's another. They do a lot of videos. They came in and took like the poor footage that didn't get burned down in Mrs. O'Leary's barn when the barn Ken got sued in New York small claims court, and all the stuff was stored in his friend's barn, and the barn burned down, and therefore, in any case,
suspicious.
Really?
Well,
yes.
And
That's
That's what he said.
let's bring this sentence back up again. Let's bring that little page back up again real quick.
all right.
Because truthfully, Ken could have just stopped the first sentence and put the period behind businessman. Because it's not just I'm a bad businessman when it comes to figuring how much money I need to create a Kickstarter. No, my name is Ken Whitman and I am a bad businessman. Because Ken has made numerous promises to people. One of the things that I haven't dragged out screaming and kicking into the light of the day is a series of dialogue that I had with Ken where I offered to write a check to get pencil dice to ship. And I could disclose that, I guess. But really, what everybody needs to understand is that Ken Whitman's track record is absolutely transparently clear. And so
Yeah.
now that he's created the special project page with descriptions and names that don't match the pictures of the people that are on the web page. Now that he is an AI and TSR historian, despite the fact that he only worked there for a single year and is now trying to cachet in on all of this.
Oh, and he's leaning into that like something fierce.
Well, of course he
I
does,
was the
because
Gen Con
every other thing he's
coordinator.
leaned on has fallen over and collapsed. So yes, but we're going to spend a lot of time talking about Ken over the next few weeks because Ken has decided, like a whack-a-mole, to poke his head up and chirp a bunch. And folks, the handwriting on the wall is transparently clear. 6 projects. Who leaves people like Jolly Blackburn in a lurch? Ken Whitman does. Who takes people's money and never delivers pencils? Ken Whitman does. And so all of these things that are the experience, the melange of Ken Whitman, it still comes up to a steaming pile of I didn't ship anything from the Kickstarters. I have made numerous promises that never, ever, ever had any truth to them. He's not delivered on the things that he has publicly stated. Eric has got the receipts, but more importantly, there's also, Eric, what is the website? I forgot.
Not
What-
another dime.
Not another dime.
Dime.blogspot.com.
Right.
It is a great reference for this. And by the way, for those pencils, Ken, in the video that will re-release tomorrow, talks about the $1,500 he spent on pencils that weren't embossed or something like that.
Embossed. They weren't
Embossed,
embossed.
but he had the pencil. He had the pencil embosser, which Marcus King bought him, but he didn't have the time in his day to make any pencils to ship because
He was
Because
busy
Ken.
setting up his next Kickstarter.
Axeman's a busy man. Axeman has things to do. You know, Axeman got stuff going on.
I had to look it up because I did not believe that there was such a thing as a pencil embosser machine, but lo and behold, there it is.
All right, so let's dump Ken Whitman, but Eric's got a video coming out tomorrow. You're all going to watch it, and if you have people that are like, I follow this guy who does all this stuff about TSR on Facebook because he's knowledgeable, please share it. Just don't. You know, really and truly, let's just.
Oh, there's a lot of unintentional humor there, or maybe it's intentional. He had a post a couple of days ago about how when he did Mutazoids, he sent it to Greg Stafford. Greg Stafford sent him back a note, said it was the worst piece of shit he'd ever read in his life. But he said that inspired him. That inspired him to work hard to make it better. And he feels like, while Mutazoids is probably a piece of shit, his other projects that came out afterwards were better because of what Ken Stafford said. What Stafford said. I'm like, that's pretty revealing to reveal a note that Greg Stafford sent you that said, yeah, this is the worst piece of shit I've ever seen. I just thought that was hilarious. I like to have, he should just have that as a quote on his business card. The worst piece of shit I've ever seen.
Now, he also had the story about how he was blacklisted because they thought he was a P word. Well, Don, in the letter he got, said that I never said I was blacklisted, and so there's like a couple of people working on this thing, and I don't know if they all quite know what the other hand, the other head, the other mind is doing. But by the way, I got my own official, not official letter today. So I feel part of the crowd. So Mr.
Is he
10 card over here.
threatening to sue you? Possibly. Is this
Yeah.
possible? Yeah.
Come up to New York, dude. Come up to New York.
Well, he wasn't blacklisted because of whatever. He's blacklisted because of rapid POD. There was a lot of people that knew about that got screwed by that. The word spread, do not do business with this man because he will take your money. This is way before the years of Kickstarter. This is rapid POD was like what 2000, 99, 2000.
Early aughts. It was the early aughts. When he had the license for the Highlander card game, where he allegedly, I've heard this from numerous sources, but I can't pin it down, that there may have been some extra collectible cards that were printed for the aftermarket. But I mean, again, I'm just saying that's alleged. I've heard multiple sources, but
Hey, the good news is he's blocked me on Facebook now.
Oh my
God! Well, I'm still getting stuff. He's probably probably blocked now because I love his stories. Stories are hilarious because I think they're AI created. Eric, have you run them through the AI detector?
They're
very AI formatted. If you've read the format for AI FAKO stories,
they are
all his stories follow that.
They seem to be a combination. That's the really.
He actually has four. He has 4 Facebook accounts at this point.
Only?
He has 4 that I literally can see right now.
Okay, there's one for Whitman 2025.
Well, there's Whitman, the homeless holidays. That's that account.
No, but the it has the most pretentious image at the top of the page that I think I've ever seen on any Facebook page. It's him as Dungeon Master from the cartoon, but in green with it's just.
Yeah, well, all right. So let's talk
AI
about
CEO. Come on, man.
Let's talk about somebody who actually was at TSR.
Yes, thank you, Jim. Let's end this. Let's palate cleanse here.
Yeah,
that's palate cleanse. So unlike people who worked for TSR for a year and claimed to be everything else, let's talk about somebody who was actually an amazing person at TSR and who unfortunately passed away. Jean Robbie has passed away. She entered hospice care and then died, I believe, the next day. She'd been ill for a while, and she left a lasting mark on a long legacy of projects. She was an editor. By all accounts, everybody that I ever heard talk about her, she was beloved by TSR staff. And she's just one more voice we won't have at our table. And it's just heartbreaking. You know, we are losing these folks. We lost Tim a few weeks ago. We lost Gene. I never
heard. Have you ever heard a bad word about her, Jim? I never heard a bad word about her. Anybody in the industry. She
was loved. I mean, really and truly, she was loved. I mean, when I die, there's going to be a long line, just of torches and pitchforks. But yes, she did Kren Space for Spelljammer. She had her hand on all
the Mage. She did Veil the Mage.
Yes.
Greyhawk. WG12, right? Yeah, Veil the Mage.
Yeah, and again, it's just one of those things that just breaks your heart. You're like, but she had a great life.
I want to tell you one of her big bullet points, Jim. If you read the Game Wizards by John Peterson, she was the one tasked with writing the first Endless Quest books. I believe she wrote the first 4 or 5.
I remember her for.
Yep.
They sold so much, and she made so much money from them that TSR had to change the policy for revenue because she was making so much money. These books went into first printing, second printing, third printing.
It's great.
11th printing.
They
were so popular. They're like, who's this Jean Rabbie and what's all this money she's making? So the Blooms are like, we're going to change this. And so they had to change the policy about payment for whatever they call the payments. Because
royalties. They had to change the royalties.
We actually pay our authors for making us money.
They were cutting these gigantic checks to somebody that they didn't know who she was. Who is this?
Like the early history of TSR is filled with some incredibly interesting dick moves. Like my favorite was that John Carr, or not John Carr, but Mike Carr was making too much money off of B1. And so Gary was like, hey, wait a minute. I want to write the basic module that's going to go into all the basic sets from here forward. So here's B2.
Yeah, my favorite was loaning SPI money to make payroll and then calling in the loan 2 weeks later.
Yes, and then but the Gene Robbie royalty agreement, this is classic. Oh, by the way, hey,
and what was she going to do? I mean, so she's making X amount. Now you're only going to make half X. Half X is still a crap load of money. She's like,
it was a crap load of money. Yeah,
it was a lot of money. She did very well with those first 4 or 5 books. Look, we all read those. We picked those up. I remember my youngest brother picked them up and said, have you seen these? I'm like, no. And I'm sitting there on the can one day, flipping through it, going, this is pretty cool. Everybody back then picked those up and read them. And that's why they went through 11, 12, 17 printings. I mean, God knows how many printings those first 4 or 5 did. But she also set the stage for those books. It's like, here's how you do it. Here's how you do an Endless Quest book. And to his credit, Jim Ward looked at it, figured out the formula. I can do these now, and then everybody else.
Isn't there like somebody actually made a flow chart?
Yeah, there's Jim Ward very famously had a flow chart. And then, but I mean, just like I said, her impact on the hobby, a lot of it was behind the scenes. But you talk to people and I just never hear a bad word. I never heard a bad word about her. She wasn't a backstabber. She didn't take credit for things she didn't do. And I just think, it's really sad that that's the kind of person that, maybe she didn't create a lot of, I guess what we call classic stuff. I mean, the Veil of the Mage is okay. I don't really even know how much work she really did on that. I know her name's on the module.
It's not the best Greyhawk module ever.
No, it's not the best, but she was. There's a place in our hobby for people who put out baseline, pretty good stuff. Not the greatest stuff.
Absolutely a place for workman-like modules.
Absolutely.
Heavens Lord, don't get me started on Rose effing Estes.
Yeah, don't mix them up either.
I think that's Rose's son. I think that's Kevin.
Don't mess up Rose and Gene, because I had a friend do that one time, and I was like, no.
Yeah,
we're talking 2 entirely different people. Rose did those execrable Greyhawk novels that weren't Greyhawk, that had bestiality. By the way, if you want your kids to feature a story with bestiality, pick up one of those Master Nomad books where
let's kill Ayus with a magic +1 dagger. Yay! Yeah.
If I want bestiality, I go for Baldur's Gate 3.
Well, she had somebody in wolf form have relations with a wolf, and you start reading like, am I reading what I think I'm reading?
They're both wolves. Yeah, Agile Monks. Hey, welcome. We were talking about my book.
Agile, we had the first hour. We're into the second hour.
Look, we're talking beast. We're talking Joe Bloch. We just mentioned bestiality. My God.
Yeah. What else do you want?
What more do you want?
I'm afraid to say this might be on brand.
All right.
Just talk about your book a little more.
Yeah, let's talk about your book. Show off the book for the latecomers. Look at it. It's not a Dragonlance book.
No,
it's not.
Well, no, it can't. But wait a minute. It can be a Dragonlance book because it's got my cover.
Oh, look at this magic trick Joe's about to pull here.
Someone else's book. That's
right.
Thank you, Lightning Source. Okay. So, yes, Book of Lost Lore. Book of Fell Wisdom is my last Adventures Dark and Deep book. It's got new character classes. It's got new optional rules. It's got necromancers, witches, myconic druids who are in the Underdark using fungus. It's got the specialty clerics for all the demon lords. Depending on which demon lord you serve, you have different spells and powers and junk like that. It's got rules for alchemy. It's got rules for courtly intrigue. A lot of this is coming from my other books that have been out for a while. The Darker Paths books and Adventures Great and Glorious, but this is very, very revamped based on feedback I've gotten over the last years about those. It's got a ton of new stuff in it as well. So this is the capstone to what I want for my Adventures Dark and Deep game, and it will add a lot to your stuff. It's completely modular. Take what you want, don't use what you don't want. It will add something in here, will add to your game. And it's available on Kickstarter right now. Go to kickstarter.brwgames.com.
Or
Joe,
follow
Joe,
tavern.game/spell.
Just a question. So when I get that book and I look at the character classes, who am I going to want to play of the new classes?
My personal favorite is the Necromancer, but I know there are some people who just like witches because they like witches. And I actually
I'm married to one, so
as am I actually, but more literally than you probably. But yeah, no,
I spelled that wrong. Never mind. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Hey.
She's nowhere near them. She's nowhere near this, and nobody will tell her here.
Yeah,
wink,
my
wink.
favorite is honestly the Necromancer, because a lot of the spells come from undead powers. So you've got you can touch things like a ghoul and paralyze them, or the vampire's kiss will transfer energy to you and stuff like that. So I just like the way that I set that up in terms of where the stuff came from. But the witch class has a lot of really cool things. It's one of the spells is Hand of Glory, which is the hand with the candles coming out of the fingers. There's all kinds of neat stuff in there.
So Joe, how much, if anything or nothing, did you take from the Dragon Magazine witch class and then
None.
the other earlier witch classes?
Nope,
Yeah.
nothing. And I know there were a couple of necromancers in there too. Nothing from those.
Good deal.
Yeah, this is all new stuff. I do take a lot of stuff from Gary's other game that he did.
Legendary Journeys.
Thank you, Legendary Journeys. I use that for inspiration for a lot of the stuff that's Adventures Dark and Deep, and because I know he was very adamant that TSR took all of his notes and everything in Legendary Journeys was new because he got sued. But when you really dig deep into it, it's a little obvious. Especially things with like the Jester and stuff like that. But where there was stuff to draw inspiration from, I drew it. Obviously nothing's a direct copy or anything like that, but there's a lot of inspiration in Gary's other stuff. But no, nothing from the Dragon Magazine. I know the article you're talking about.
Yeah,
it's a good article, and I like the classic.
Yeah, that's very classic. I after I read that article, of course, then we had to have a bad guy. We had to have a witch coven as bad guys in our campaign because they had such cool spells. And
I actually did a campaign with that witch class when I was testing out the witch class. The players were running through B1 in Search of the Unknown, and speaking of which, and one of they ran afoul of the witch who was plaguing the local village, and they woke up in the inn one morning, and there's a Hand of Glory staring them in the face, so that they freaked out at that.
I hate it when that happens.
Yeah, as one does. But
as many college blowouts as I woke up with a Hand of Glory, it's a bummer.
No,
you're not the good Hand of Glory. The bad.
You're thinking of Hole of Glory.
Oh,
different, very different.
The Dwarven Glory Hole.
So
oh God!
So much for my monetization.
I got my copy from Mike. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah.
But
the most unfortunately named module of all time. The no
Dwarven Glory Hole Mine.
Dwarven Glory Hole
Scrap Faggot Green. There's just
that's close second. Judge's Guild was always pushing that envelope. They pushed the envelope.
In fairness, they were trying to use British
in so many ways
that don't translate all that well to Americanisms.
Yeah.
On that note, Mike, you have music for us.
You know what? I'm gonna hate to do this,
all right.
But it's the same. It's the same five as last week.
Go watch that.
I'll be back when I change my musical taste. But I love these 5 CDs so much. I haven't changed. Romantics, Luna, Guided by Voices, Long Riders, and the Who.
You're phoning it in.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I've heard of the Romantics and I've heard of the Who. The rest are
Oasis. I have Oasis.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. Same 5 guys. Sorry, I'm falling in love with this. You get a
Tardigrade Inferno.
that just really just.
Tardigrade Inferno is a terrific band out of Russia. They're coming out with a new CD soon. Check
Is
them
this
out.
death metal by any chance?
No. It's they describe themselves as, what is it? Dark cabaret. So it's metalish. It's metalish, hard rockish, but it's got a really weird lilt to it. It's very, very interesting.
I can't follow that. I think
Jim,
it's
give
time.
us your movies, because that's blowing my mind right now. Dark Cabaret is blowing my mind.
Yeah,
No, it's
that
really
sounds
good.
like I wandered into the
it.
wrong bar.
You got some movies for us, Jimbo?
I do. I have a couple. So
Okay.
so I'm on a Wes Anderson kick right now, and I'm going to talk about a couple. This is the most recent Wes Anderson film, The French Dispatch. Or I'm sorry, not The French Dispatch. The Phoenician Scheme is the newest one, but I like The French Dispatch. I think it's a lot of fun. It's from what I call the back half of Wes Anderson's career, where it's a little more adult themed. That started with the hotel one I can't think of the name of, but this is my favorite of the more recent movies, and that's Isle of Dogs. This is right in Wes Anderson's sweet spot. It's a story about a boy on an island with dogs. It's stop motion. It's
one. Yeah.
It's not as good as The Fabulous Mr. Fox, I think, but it still has some really laugh out loud moments, and it's just a treat to watch, and so on and so forth. So Isle of Dogs is one of my two picks to do this week, and French Dispatch. And again, you can't go wrong with Wes Anderson movies. I, of course, think Rushmore Hung the Moon, but then I also think The Life Aquatic is the one that you can actually share with people who grew up in the 70s and were forced to watch a lot of Jacques Cousteau movies or television shows. Your mileage may vary, but if you like Wes Anderson, if you like one or two of his movies, you'll probably like all of them.
I have a very warm spot for Moonrise Kingdom. My wife and I saw that, and we just died. Like I said, our experience was we're in the theater, we're dying laughing on the ground, and the whole theater's just quiet. Like nobody gets any of the jokes.
Asteroid King.
We're laughing so hard at the stuff.
I've seen that too. I like it. It's just not. It doesn't resonate with me the way a lot of the others do.
I'm like the only person I know who likes it. So yeah.
What, Moonrise? Yeah.
No, Asteroid Kingdom.
Asteroid City. Yeah.
That was okay. That wasn't one of my favorite ones, I would say. Yeah, it was all right.
Yeah, exactly. My record remains unbroken.
But it does have a scene in it. It does have a scene in it that, frankly, is just like the movie Trading Places when you used to rent the VHS and there was a hole in the tape from everybody pausing it to see Jamie Lee Curtis. That is actually Colin Jost's wife. What's her name from Black Widow, from the Marvel movies?
Scarlett Johansson.
Johansson. That is actually Scarlett Johansson in Asteroid City for the split-second scene. So all of you with like forehead VCRs for Blu-ray players have
just like Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Yeah, shorter scene.
Yeah,
I think ScarJo's already taken all her clothes off a few times. But for research purposes,
for all the people whose inner 12-year-old boy has yet to collapse. Mm-hmm. So there you go.
Okay.
Hey, Wilson, we got a chime in from The Ohio State. That's pretty good.
Oh, yeah, he's showing it. Oh. I told him that you were bad mouthing him, and he needs to come here and teach you a lesson.
Bad mouthing him. I was just pointing out the trail of tears all the way back to The Ohio State. Must have been just
hot.
Ouch, ouch. Anyway, great night.
He got his championship last year. Come on, he got his championship.
Who needs it?
So Mike does music and Jim does movies. What do you do, Eric?
I just host.
We're wondering that. Jim and I have been wondering that for months.
I just do this shit.
Mostly he doesn't shave and he's grown his hair out. And
pretty much.
I mean, I keep expecting to have a lantern.
One final question.
We got a final question here.
Does
spell wisdom necessarily mean evil magic or evil magic user classes? Well, there is a necromancer and there is a witch. So yes, and there's a lot of magic items that are geared towards monsters. Like there's the scroll of protection from sunlight for vampires. There's also the specialty clerics for demon lords and stuff. But it's not only that. There's rules for alchemy. There's Myconic druid who is in the Underdark, but is not necessarily evil. There's stuff for how to do followers for characters and how to build castles. One of my favorite things is if you have a bard character, you can actually make a troop, which will enhance your bardic abilities to do stuff. The bigger your troop is, the bigger the larger population you can influence with your verbal patter skills. So there is a lot of evil stuff in there, but it's not just for evil characters.
Well, some people would consider bards evil. I happen to like them, but that's besides the point.
Well, how about and bear in mind, this is bards as class, so
right? No, I know.
Yeah. Well, no, for everybody else, it's not. You start as a fighter and you go to a thief.
No, God, no.
That
makes my headache hurt even more.
How about a troop of kinder bards? Is that evil,
Mike?
No, but it is chaotic.
That's an FU, Mike. That's really.
I think that's pretty evil. That's evil to me.
Oh God!
I don't even have words for you some nights.
Yes, a huge thank you to Joe Bloch, not Joe the lawyer. Joe Bloch. We get confused because we got too many Joes.
There's so many Joes
in our little collab.
And that at work, there's so many. It's weird.
And as an aside, every Friday, myself, Joe the lawyer, and Joe Bloch. Oh, every other Sunday, but every Friday we get together. We do a collab video.
Wow.
We all take our own take on a subject. So if you subscribe to one of us, subscribe to all. Thank you to Mike. I don't know why, but yeah, I know. And thank you to Jim for putting up with the shenanigans.
And thank you to all of you for having me on. I really appreciate it. This has been a blast as always.
Great to have you on, Joe.
You're like the unofficial fourth chair. You're always welcome.
We love you on, Joe. It's great.
All right, folks. On that note, thank you to Agile for tossing some coinage into the kitty. Much appreciated. Back tomorrow with another live stream. There's a bonus video going out tomorrow. There's going to be 2 videos. That bonus video.
Oh no, you didn't! Oh man, this is gonna be
the bonus video is going to be Ken Whitman in his own words. So listen to Ken tap dance away. All right, folks.